Hi guys, good morning everybody. Good morning from Canada. This is Sunday, December the 1st, 2024. We have finally entered the last week of the year 2024. And let me tell you, I mean, the year has been pretty solid in terms of the kind of changes Canadian immigration has seen. So yes, before we move ahead, I just want a quick confirmation because last time also there was an issue with the audio. So if you can hear me well, am I audible on the all the platforms? Let me know so that we still have time to make the changes. Okay, guys, if anybody can drop a quick comment, if you can hear me well, and then we can get started. Perfect. Thanks, Vijay, for confirming. Okay, so guys, this week was pretty solid, I would say, in terms of the kind of changes that were thrown out. And this I would say would be one of the most awaited changes because Canada overall in the past couple of years has developed a good image in terms of accepting refugees, but this was the first time ever when we saw Canada change its outlook towards refugees. So that's pretty much one important aspect that we'll cover today. Not only that, the most important news, and I receive a lot of calls, is that when is the STEM draw happening, and when are the other draws happening. So apparently, our most learned attorney Stephen Murans shared his GCMS notes on Twitter, on X, and he dropped this bombshell of GCMS notes, which said that there won't be any further STEM category draws in the year. So we will discuss about that. So the broad changes, and also inside Canada applicants. So that piece will be very interesting in terms of express entry changes. And also we will also talk about schools, Canadian colleges shutting down in Canada. That's very important. And last, we will take care of the PNP draws that happened, and we will finally end with the Q&A, so questions and answers. So all of you can post your comments, and then we will look at your comments during the end. So quickly getting started with the week's updates. Okay, so this particular week we are looking at November 25th, although there is one update beyond November 25th also, but broad and up until yesterday. um, Canada has now finally officially decided to temporarily pause refugee sponsorship applications for groups of 5 and community sponsors. Now, this is not uh, this is not saying that they've stopped everything, but so far they have now started implementing changes. And the first change you can see here. So, what caused this? We will also discuss, but most importantly, is this particular piece of news that was out on November 29th. And this particular news piece says that um, IRCC has been, widely accepted as, or they have dedicated a lot of efforts towards accepting refugees. And also, this particular program has been very successful, successfully transitioning refugees from overseas to Canada. These are groups of 5 pre-vetted refugees, community sponsors. Again, communities come together and sponsor people, and these particular uh, changes, or this particular pause, will remain in effect until 31st of December 2025. But what caused me to think about is that this is a regular, while this particular stream of groups of 5 can be controlled because it is preempted, like they know that these many people, they're all verifications, and in fact they get a lot of support from the groups of 5 as well. So this is just, I would say, a facade that IRCC has tried to put up, because this technically does not make any sense. What's causing the real stir is the folks who have been inside Canada, folks who have been seeing expiring work permits or expiring study permits, and who are not able to extend. Those people inside Canada are claiming refugee claims. And apparently, as per the prime minister and as per the immigration minister, there are a lot of bogus claims that are happening just because people have to go back home. And since they don't want to go back home, they are claiming refugee asylums. Not only that, Roxham Road was shut down a couple of months ago, and then illegal crossings. So basically, I personally believe that illegal crossings are happening from Canada to US, but also the other way around. But yes, Bigger concern in terms of refugees have been, you know, baseless claims inside Canada and also illegal crossings. Whereas the one that they shut down on November 29th is obviously big, is very important, but I am assuming there are more changes to come through, because this is not just it. If you look at this, the numbers have already been fixed in the immigration levels plan, and this is just something that has come up, and we are expecting more changes to come in. If you look at this particular news article, this says Trudeau has been blaming bad actors. And in terms of bad actors, if you look at this video, so there was a video by Justin Trudeau, about 7 minutes long, on YouTube, and he was talking about what went wrong. He could have acted earlier, and because of all of that, in theory, this particular change is coming through, the one that you are seeing. Okay, so this particular temporary pause is the one that is happening now. Apart from that, I believe the bigger bomb was dropped by Stephen Murins this week. So Stephen Murins obtained GCMS notes as on his channel and on X, and he shared this particular four-pager GCMS notes, which talk about how IRCC planned its change of stopping STEM category draws and then moving that towards CEC draws. So this particular this particular note, if you try to investigate on this, this clearly says that January 2024, when we had the immigration levels plan last year, so we had a broad set of expected number of category intakes. So this was the expected, like 15% in health, 25% was supposed to be in STEM and transport and agriculture. And then they said, midway around August, they decided to do away and shift their entire focus, because of the one big reason, because they said that a lot of work permits, PGWPs, will be expiring in the year 2024. So keeping the PGWPs in mind, they said, because a lot of people will have to leave Canada, and IRCC is focusing on keeping those inside Canada applicants closer to them, they wanted to make changes towards folks who were inside Canada. Right now, another problem that was identified in this particular note is that since they did not have the authority to do country specific draws as of today, so they wanted to change their focus toward Canadian experience class candidates, because 98% of CEC candidates with a score of over 500 in the pool are in Canada. Hence, if they're not trying to get a country specific draw, they would rather want to go with a CC only draw. Hence, midway, they changed around the week of June or August, I believe. They started changing the strategy, and they started intentionally holding CEC draws only for the year. So the most important thing is that the express entry, the STEM category draws, see here, as the department will no longer hold. If you look at this one, let me just bring it up larger on the screen. Hmm. Yeah. So as the department will no longer hold or perform the let me just quickly show you. Yes, the department will no longer hold uh, um, CC. So, STEM category draws, transport and agriculture, and the CBS percentage for these draws will not be met. So, IRCC has been very clear internally. So, they intentionally dropped the STEM category draws. But what's surprising is that we did not even see draws with Ontario HCP as well. So that is definitely not good news for us so far. But yes, this is pretty much the bigger bombshell, because last week also there were a lot of people who were asking that is there going to be a STEM draw, or is there going to be a transport draw, because both of these have not really worked around. So this is the answer, guys. 2024, balance of 2024, which is only 30 days from now, will not have. And also, IRCC aims to have lower IT round sizes in January and February 2025, given the high skilled admission target is not yet confirmed. So because they've recently had changes in the immigration levels plan, on this page, on the second page as well, if you see, they have clearly identified that if and when now, because this memo is old, right? So they said if IRCC plans to introduce 2025 immigration levels plan, any changes, then that will replicate on the effect of further category draws, STEM or other draws in the coming year. Hence, at this point in fall, IRCC was supposed to hold internal discussions and meetings, and they were going to now impact or rather introduce further changes in the categories. So guys, what I would say is that um, as of today, STEM draws will not happen, transport draws will not happen. There will be smaller draws in smaller rounds of invitation in this year, in this balance of the year, and also January and February, as we previously predicted as well. So these are the typical changes, and by probably the end of 2025, we should see more um, changes in the categories, and that ultimately will come out in the month of January or maybe February, once we will be able to order GCMS notes. So yes, definitely big changes coming in IRCC's express entry split of categories, and people are not really happy. If you look at this, 23rd of September 2024, there was supposed to be a draw for Canadian experience class, and if you look at all the other categories, they're pretty much empty. They're not empty, but STEM and agriculture, see here, um, we are planning to hold fewer category rounds raw with this and health continuing. So health and French will continue. The remaining ITAs have been originally allocated to STEM, transport and agriculture will now be allocated to CEC rounds for the remainder of the year. This is bigger news, that no more agriculture, no more transport, and no more STEM. Well, 2024 is about to end only, but still this is pretty much what you're expecting, and hopefully this will continue in the first 2 months of 2025 as well. So we should be seeing more changes in the year of 2025, which is not so pleasant to hear. But they said CRS scores are estimated to drop around 500 by inviting more and going deeper into the pool compared to 525 by status quo. Now, because this GCMS note is old, I believe this is not what they intended to do, but they had their clear intentions of dropping the CRS scores. But eventually, because the round size was small, the CRS scores continue to be on an all-time high. Guys, I know this is not so happy news, but I believe this was long coming, because IRCC has sort of let the system play by itself. They did not fix the numbers way early. They did not fix the policies, be it refugee policies and international student intakes and workers in Canada, temporary foreign workers, and this was supposed to happen. So since they let things out of control in the year 2023 and the first half of year 2024, what we are seeing today is a replication of, or rather the result phase of what that was happening. Now the prime minister says he is doing everything in that YouTube video, like I showed you earlier. They are trying to do everything that they want to, but I believe the effects will still be there for a longer time. So yes, um, this is not so good news, and which brings us to the another important part of the news is Seneca to close um, the Markham campus. This is one, although this is old news, but again, because the prime minister has acknowledged that, it is good for us to look at this. They have suspended. So Sheridan has suspended 40 programs in the restructuring of administration ahead of international student cap. Also, Sheridan has been seeing massive layoffs. Conestoga and Algoma University, all of them have been seeing massive numbers dropping, which is not so good, um, because guys, obviously Canada has let a lot of international students come to Canada, um, and the numbers have now spiraled out of control, because that has increased the number of temporary foreign worker population or the student population. Now a lot of those people obviously want to be here permanently. Now there is a disconnect. Almost 3 million and over temporary residents, unprecedented numbers of refugees, and unprecedented number of illegal people, and the number of permanent residents, space for permanent residents is only 395,000 people. For 2025, 385 next year, 365 next year, or 75 and 65, which means only less than a million people will be able to claim uh, permanent residency in the coming 3 years, whereas the number of temporary residents in Canada today is over 3 million. Imagine the disconnect, right? 1 is to 3 spots, and they have now closed down space on international students. They have closed down LMIAs. They've not closed down, so basically they've held them tighter. More, verifications going on. LMIA 50-point changes, are expected. People are worried about it. The changes have not been announced yet, but the people are worried. They're now closing doors, slowly closing doors on refugees as well. So these are the repercussions that we are looking at, right? The prime minister coming out in the open, the immigration minister is trying to blame the bad actors, but I believe the bad actors here is the whole system where people should have planned better. But there is no bad or no good, because Canada had to do what it had to do during COVID to remain afloat, because international students, they bring in billions of dollars. Now at one point it's money for the country, at the second point it's a lot of people in the country. So yeah, there could not have been a better balance that IRCC could have struck. So yes, if you look at draws, so this week was pretty solid once again. British Columbia PNP, bringing in back-to-back draws. So November 26th was one draw. Again, not a lot of people invited. Skilled worker EEBC, which is express entry, international graduate EEBC, and then entry level ELSS. Only 7 people invited with very high number of draws. Okay, so this is something that's happening. Childcare, 102 cutoff with less than 5 people invited. Construction 108, healthcare 121, and veterinary care 80 people. Less than 5 people invited in each of them. This is British Columbia, but the good part here is that British Columbia has been holding consistent draws. So November itself, this was the fourth draw. So weekly draw, British Columbia is holding, which is good. Next was Prince Edward Island. Prince Edward Island held its draw on 21st of November, which is the previous week. Again, 59 was the LMIA invitations, and the total invitations over the last this particular draw was 59 only. This is Prince Edward Island. The number of draws have been consistent. If you look at this particular year, they've been pretty consistent. Okay. And the last draw was held on November 27th by Alberta. Now, Alberta PNP has, about 71 was the score, and number of invitations were 447. This was opportunity stream, and they've, obviously laid out all their requirements. And this was November 22nd draw also was 40. These are the conditions. So they want people who have a valid PGWP and expiring on 2025 or later, February 28th. Education Alberta CLB is there, and the points are there. So basically their score is 71, and people should be invited with 447 numbers total. So this was Alberta PNP. Guys, overall I would say that the number of invitations that are happening with PNP are still now good. I would say it's not as bad, but the next year is going to be really troublesome for a lot of people, because the next year, um, Alberta, will look at numbers being slashed. Not only Alberta, Ontario. In fact, the entire world of Canadian PNP, or the immigration under PNP, this is basically happening. Numbers are slashed. Previously it was 110,000 people. This upcoming year will be 55,000 people only. So 55,000 number of invitations, and imagine these all draws will go down. So I'm assuming in the next couple of months, and next 1 year, the PNP should only be focusing on their core programs. They might not get fancy, or even if they have any other fancy programs, all those programs should have relatively lower numbers, be it entrepreneur streams, all of those, they will have lower numbers attached to it. Maybe spillovers from here and there, just to keep them afloat. Overall, I think their core streams, especially including healthcare and construction, and I hope STEM also, but yes, these should be the the ones that should be up there. So good, good week overall, but in terms of changes, very bad changes that have happened. Again, let's just a quick recap. um, Canada has paused the groups of five and the community sponsors for international refugees. Okay, so people who are coming over, but I suspect that there should be more changes because this was a very low change, low impact change. So overall, Canada has had um, refugee system being overhauled, and we could expect more changes coming very very soon. Second, no more transport, agriculture, and STEM category draws in the year of 2024, and also the first quarter of 2025 will be very slow because right now they should be planning changes in the categories, and these changes should start rolling in probably after the first quarter. So at this present moment, as per the GCMS notes, IRCC should be holding internal discussions which should be trickling down from the immigration levels plan, and hence we should see new fresh numbers. So up until February 2025, I would say don't have very high hopes from categories. The only hopes you should have is should be from CEC categories, right? So CEC, French, and healthcare will continue. Apart from that, everything is on the back burner. The third bigger change is that the Canadian universities and colleges have started folding in. We are seeing massive layoffs, massive program shutdowns, and massive universities and campuses being shut down, which is big because a lot of these universities were previously expecting government funding. Now, since government funding was less, they were relying on international students to support their existence in the market. Now, since Canada has IRCC has implemented change on the international student program by itself, by issuing provincial attestation letters, by issuing LOA verification stages, and by also reducing the cap of international students, hence, and also impacting the spousal open work permits, and also PGWPs being limited, and then in all of those changes, the universities and colleges have started folding in. Some of them have shut down, some of them have shut down the programs, some of them have shut down campuses altogether. So yes, couple of changes that could be very well expected from the world in response in terms of international education. Overall, guys, I think this is pretty much it from the changes this particular week. I think this is about the phase where people are really excited on Q&A, and I see a lot of questions have poured in. So we will now start looking at the questions and the answers that people have brought up on the screen. Okay, taking it from the top. Uh, okay, interesting question. Let's see. So my PGWP and wife's open work permit has 1.5 years left. My CRS is 470. Baby is due in January. Congratulations. I'm not sure for French. Is a closed work permit better for my wife to pursue, or my wife to pursue a master's? Please discuss. So overall, Alamin, I believe for your wife to pursue a master's, obviously she could do it by herself, and you could be one of her. You could be her accompanying dependent. This should be done only if you're not able to get your permanent residency in time. So if you think in the next 1.5 years, if you are not able to get your PR, then obviously this could be one of the options, because the other option that you have shared is a closed work permit. Please note, closed work permit after you have completed or exhausted your PGWP is, or mostly will be, solely dependent on two possible programs only. One should be either LMIA, or the second one should be C16 Francophone Mobility. Now, Francophone mobility is not really suitable for you because you said French cannot happen. So that's out of the window. So first one should be employer specific LMIA based closed work permit. Now, assuming you're not, you're earning $35 and above, then a high wage LMIA should be possible for you, provided your employer is supportive. Now, this is an extrinsic controlled situation. If your employer agrees, then you will get closed work permit LMI, and you should start early, 8 to 10 months. But if you don't want to depend on anybody else, then better your wife goes to university, gets a master's, and you go as a dependent. Okay, I hope this was helpful. Okay, are they approving work permits for Indians in healthcare sector? So overall, um, there is no bifurcation for Indians or as such. For Indians, work permits are getting approved, although there's a lot of scrutiny going on. There's a lot of background checks that are happening. So it's delayed, but yes, they're still holding, provided you have the right intake, LMIAs, and everything in place. Definitely, they are approving, but with a lot of caution, with a lot of background check, police clearance, health check, and everything is happening. So, yes, the numbers might have reduced, but there is no specific target towards Indians. Everybody is facing the same heat. Um, okay, is it right to start the LMIA application or should I wait? So, my friend, look at your options. You need to get your file assessed properly. My broad assumption is that if your work permit is ending in the next 6 months, then yes, LMIA should be started right away, and you have no other options left. But if you still have 3 years to your balance, or maybe 2 years, then I think you can wait. The bells of LMIA go ringing um, only if you think you have less than 8 months left, because right now LMIA processing ads and everything is taking around about 8 months to be processed. So yes, if you have less than 8 months, then LMIA, and you don't have any other options, you could go for LMIA. But if you have any other options, if you have still time, then you can wait on it. um, Okay, Manjula, AIP is open obviously, but the quotas have filled up. So AIP is now a permanent program. AIP is not shutting down. It's just that just like any other program for Canada, AIP will also have now quotas attached to it. And this year's quota is pretty much filling up, and except that a lot of provinces also have their says. Now they're restricting them to healthcare and construction usually. So for this year, I would say, I mean, this year is since almost over. I think you will have a better shot at AIP next year. But yes, AIP is still open, fully solid and rocking. At least better than the other programs that we are seeing. Um, Okay, good question. My CRS will be 507 in January with 3 years of work experience. PGWP 31st January is expiring. Is advised to apply fake extension or leave Canada? What are the drawbacks of fake extension? Parvjot, fake extension is not at all recommended by any consultant lawyer whom you speak to, because fake extensions draw the risk of misrepresentation always. Now, whether IRCC may or may not act on it, that is their choice. But if you look at the broader definition of misrepresentation, it says that the broader definition includes that if you're trying to trick the system knowingly, if you're trying to put in something, if you're trying to lie, if you're trying to hide, if you're trying to withhold information, then you can be subjected to misrepresentation. Now, fake extension is clearly within that definition. IRCC is slowly developing a very harsh reaction towards people who are trying to stay here, whether in on fake refugee claims or fake extensions. It is only a matter of time before IRCC can start acting towards it. Now, my recommendation is, because you're already getting 3 years of Canadian experience, what benefit will you draw from a fake extension? Nothing, right? So instead of going for a fake extension, better to go back to your stream, go back to your country, try to work in your field, try to build yourself a better career, and then you will continue to be in Canadian experience class for the next 2 years, because it requires 1 year in the last 3 years. So you will continue to be in Canadian experience class, and if invited, you can come back as a permanent resident. I have personally handled several cases. In fact, in my own firm, we have people who have done this, and they have now come back. So I would highly recommend, don't go for fake extensions. It's a waste of time. It's a very high risk of misrepresentation. Instead, go back, get additional points for international experience, learn French, spend time with your family, work in your field. So these are the benefits, and then come back to Canada once you get invited. I hope, Parvjot, that helps you out. um, uh, okay. For successful spousal sponsorship in advance, as fiance TRV should be applied. So before marriage, visit can happen, and after marriage, without delay, travel, then apply dual intent. Okay, Vijay, good question. Let me clarify that. Overall, Canada has developed a very hard reaction towards temporary resident visas by itself. If you have a fiance, if and by fiance, you mean you have potentially a very close relative and you have reasons to stay back in Canada beyond that, then you will be able to, you know, you will be able to stay back in Canada longer. So you can expect that IRCC may try to give a negative reaction or very high potential of getting a negative reaction or a negative outcome to an application like that. I have seen personally in my career that people get married, they apply for dual intent visitor visa right away, even when the spouse is outside in the host country, like in the applicant's country. While they are married, recently married in that country, they can get do that, and then they can come here and do the spousal sponsorship, or they can initiate spousal sponsorship from overseas as well, because spousal sponsorship is not connected to dual intent TRV. I mean, within the dual intent TRV, you can declare that either you have applied for spousal sponsorship or you will be applying for it soon. Both of these things will work. So hence, I highly recommend, don't do TRVs before marriage, do TRVs after marriage, and that TRV should be a dual intent TRV. And parallelly, you can either initiate outland spousal sponsorship, or you can do an inland sponsorship when you come to Canada. So this is a good approach. I think this is my personal vetted approach, works for me, works for my clients. Rest, we can get into more details about your profile and then guide you better, because everything will have a better, a different approach. um, okay, so there was a quick question. Okay. My LMIA expires in January and I've applied for a closed work permit. Can I claim 50 points on applied status, and or only after the work permit approval? So DK, depending upon the kind of LMIA that you have applied for, mostly um, you can claim points for your LMIA if it's a permanent residence LMIA and if it's approved with you already, right? But and if it's a dual intent LMIA as well. But if the person did a GTS for you, or if the person did a high wage low wage for you, then you have to wait for the actual work permit to come in your hand, and then you can claim points for it. But if it's a PR LMIA, permanent residence based LMIA, then you can claim 50 points for it while your work permit is also under process, because then that still constitutes for your job offer. I hope that helps. So this was the super chat, and a couple of questions. Abhay Kumar has been posting questions back to back. Let's see. I want to apply for PR staying with spouse and child in Canada. Can I apply without spouse accompanying to boost PR? Is it possible? An issue? Now, Abhay, it depends upon your situation. There is no right or wrong answer to it, because IRCC has not clarified this specific situation per se. But what I can tell you is that if you think your spouse may not be able to continue living in Canada after she becomes a permanent resident, or if your spouse is not able to, or if she has to go home and help out her parents, so because of that she will not be able to live in Canada to complete the residency obligation, then obviously your spouse can go back, and also you can do your PR without PR without your spouse, which is with the non-accompanying spouse. But overall, um, you should not try to trick the system, because that can potentially fall into the purview of misrepresentation, right? So it has to be a genuine situation where, if a spouse is not able to complete the residency obligation while being in Canada after getting the PR, then the spouse can stay away from permanent residency and the principal applicant still continue to do it. Or if the spouse has plans, for example studies in India, say the spouse has more plans, then the spouse can head back and do it. Okay, so quick question, Saurabh. Thanks for it. Thanks, Saurabh, for supporting our cause. Um, okay, what do I think about RNIP, Kiran? RNIP is a very very good program, but unfortunately, this has been shut down. Um, RNIP has been replaced with RCIP. It has already been announced. It should be live. It should have been live in fall, but now it has been delayed further. We don't have the real cause for it. But spring of 2025, the new program replacing the Rural Northern Immigration Pilot Program will be or should be in place, and we should start seeing more communities join. And this will be a very important program. I've used it personally for a couple of my clients. Very good feedback. Good program. Um, Kanyan, we don't have a clear confirmation of whether STEM will be there or not. Looking at the GCMS draws that we saw previously, that we shared as well, it is dicey. We will have the new category decisions of the new categories in this particular time. It's all the discussions should already be underway, and we should start seeing some news on it by February. So please hold on tight. The outlook is not looking very pleasant, but express entry could soon see a lot of overhaul happening, including 50 points, 200 points, and all of that. So big changes coming in. I would say hold on to your question for some more time. Overall, STEM is not looking so favorable considering the GCMS notes came out that time. um, Yes, Varun, French category draws will continue. It is there in the mandate, the federal mandate as well. And also the recent changes, French healthcare still continued. Okay. So I would say French is definitely one of the priorities, and French category draws will continue to it. So, Sunil, can you repost your question? I am not able to see your question, but yeah. Um, Okay. What's the status after biometrics for self-employed in Canada applied 2 years ago? Samir, it's a very good profile. It's a very good program. Unfortunately, it has now been put on pause. But yes, if you submit biometrics, IRCC is taking more than 36 months now to process self-employed. Uh, they will probably ask you, because it's 2 years old, they will probably ask you for new medicals if you have not given before. So medicals, there should be schedule 5669, they should ask, because refresh to ensure there are no changes, any changes in the background. And then once the file comes to a closure, they can ask for new PCC as well. So these are the next steps that should be following soon. Okay. And STEM category we've discussed. What are the other questions, guys? Yes, good question. Ali, what is the future of trade category draws in 2025? Fortunately, trade and construction happen to be one of the priorities in addition to health and French. So I believe the next year of 2025 is going to be bullish on French, health, construction, trade. These are the four bigger draws that will continue. And trade obviously will get a lot of support from PNPs as well, because provinces have a lot of focus on that. So yes, I believe the next year should be good for trade, should be good for French, should be good for healthcare and construction. These are the four fields that people can be interested in and should really pursue hard, in these particular four sectors. um, okay, Mohammed Saeed, I have a master's degree in physics, B.Ed, doing government teaching job in Pakistan, and with an experience of 13 years, and my age is 35. Is there a chance of immigration? Saeed, um, with this particular profile, if you had an amazing IELTS, I believe you would be sitting at 470 score. If you had a not so good IELTS, then you would be sitting around 370. Now, because this is a teaching job, that means it is not preferred under any of the PNPs. Then the PNP, there are no nominations left for you. This is not STEM category draw, so 470 is a lower score. Unfortunately, there are very few chances of immigration. I believe what the area or the path you can try, it could be basically coming to Canada temporarily on a work permit or on masters to do another masters. Well, a masters for you can be a bit tough to convince because you've already done masters, but I'm sure you can get a specialty program to come to Canada to do masters and then follow your pathway. And parallelly, you could try a temporary foreign worker program. On both the programs, please be notified, permanent residence is not a guarantee. So only time in the future will tell whether you will get a PR or not. But for now, coming to Canada, these two things are pretty favorable as of today. Nothing better than this, I believe. Okay. What are the questions we have? Vishwas, PR will be delayed due to Canada Post strike. This is interesting. I first of all don't assume Canada Post will continue to strike for a lot of more time. Only I believe the PR cards can be delayed. Only applications being sent to IRCC say physical paper applications can be delayed, but beyond that I don't think that it'll have a lot of impact on PR, because this is pretty much, I mean, nowadays everybody is pretty much virtual. If IRCC needs anything, they can reach out to the applicants directly and ask for it. I've seen IRCC calling clients on phones also. So I don't think a lot of changes will happen here. um okay. uh what other questions we have? Yes, Atanu, Canada is right now, as we speak, is having a relook on the express entry draw system. A couple of things can lead to changes. One will be, I believe, the points, 50 points and the 200 points of LMIA. This is going to be overhauled, or this should be overhauled. This is long delay. The second change that we can expect is going for regional points, regional draw. So very soon, IRCC should incorporate those postal code information that they've been taking. I think they should start changing those things pretty soon. The next change is the categories. I'm assuming there could be a change in categories, or there could be dropping out a couple of categories. But yes, inside Canada could be under a lot of focus. Overall, I think these are the changes which we can expect in the times to come. So we have another super chat. Oh, there's not a super chat, but thanks, Christy, for supporting the cause. Um, okay, and okay, guys, I believe we have had a lot of questions taken for today. We'll just take one last closing question and then we'll be off. Okay, let me find an interesting question for you. Hmm. Okay, so this one looks nice. Let me just quickly answer this in the middle. So, what about the LMIA work permit processing time? I can tell you, Maksud, overall, LMIAs nowadays are taking approximately 5 to 6 months broadly. So, 5 to 6 months for LMIAs, and apart from that, the work permits are also taking 5 to 6 months. So, overall, the LMIA and the work permit together can take more than 1 year. Okay, so that's pretty much the one. Okay, so we have another super chat. So before moving out, we'll just answer the super chat. On ITC, completed 2 years on May, went on ML in June, joining back. So mat leave, right? So on intra-company transfer, I believe. So on intra-company transfer, complete 2 years on May, went on mat leave in June, joining back in Feb. Will IRCC consider 3 years, or it will consider 2 year points only? How it works? So yes, Jhansi, good question. Mat leave is not considered a part of Canadian work experience. That part will be removed or should be removed by you. You can create two instances of those work histories. Break the first instance when you started mat leave and start the second instance when you went back to work. But yes, if you're on mat leave, that will not be considered as a part of your Canadian experience class. That's how it works. I hope that answers the question, and thanks for the super chat. Okay, so guys, I believe we are done for today, and we definitely look forward to joining you next Sunday. For all those people who we were not able to answer today, guys, I will be getting into calls now. So I wish you all the best. I hope you guys, get your Canadian permanent residency. I sincerely wish you do, and you know, definitely wish you all the best. And I really hope to see you soon in Canada. All the best.